Hey guys, this is Katie. My husband and I work on the farm, and our two young boys love helping out when they can. I'm usually the one that you'll talk to if you're interested in purchasing our beef or pork, so don't hesitate to reach out and ask any questions if you're interested. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. Job 5:17. I don't know if it's just me or if it is a common misconception that growth stops once you leave your childhood home and get your first job. I remember when I was in the middle school and high school thinking that as soon as I graduated, I would arrive. I would be an adult and I would be perfectly mature, whatever that meant. Well, I am sure that anyone that has lived past this point in their life realizes that there is no truth in this. Adulthood constantly brings problems and challenges that we get to navigate. Okay, then maybe the growing up stops once we have kids, because parents know all of the answers, right? I mean, after all, they've brought life into this world and they figured out their relationship as well as how to take care of another human being. Wrong again. This way of thinking is childish and selfish. It has a lack of insight of self and empathy for others, because you're always trying to prove you're perfectly matured, have no flaws, and have figured it all out. The reality is that life will bring us challenges and problems to solve until the day we die. In fact, instead of constantly looking for the place that we no longer need to grow or mature, our prayer should be that the process of maturing continues to challenge us until we pass from this life. Because the other choice is to wallow in self-pity and arrogance. The self-pity comes when we think that we don't deserve challenges, and the arrogance comes when we think that we've reached perfection, usually only because we've reached a certain age in life. Growth will probably have discomfort, sometimes a fear of the unknown, and possibly hesitation. That's okay as long as we choose to embrace these feelings as part of the process and walk forward anyway. This has been a hard lesson for me to accept, as I want God to leave me alone and let me coast for a bit. I mean, how much more maturing does He want from me? I'm not bad, I'm not a murderer or a thief. How arrogant and self-centered is that? I'm telling the God of the universe that I know more than Him, and I can tell Him what is best for me instead of the other way around. Imagine if one of our children said this to us when we were correcting them. The reality is that I don't know the end from the beginning, and unless I choose to mature and accept circumstances as opportunities for growth, I will continue to make the same mistakes and have the same regrets. Homeschooling our kids and no longer having an 8-to-5 job includes more work, stress, and discomfort than my previous life. And I've struggled to continue to show my husband and kids God's love in the midst of it. I've thought it was okay to complain when I was tired so that everyone else would know how tired I was. Not sure what good that did, though. If anything, it just drug everyone else down with me. God is showing me that in the midst of my exhaustion, I need to give love and encouragement and stop waiting until I feel good. I have to look outside of myself, even when I'm tired and frustrated, and see what others need. Maybe if I'm struggling, they are too. Maybe if I'm exhausted, they are too. Maybe if I'm overwhelmed, they are too. Instead of dragging us all down, I need to start lifting us all up. Sometimes I can only do this for a few minutes, and sometimes I can make it to lunch. That's okay, because God fills in when we can't, as long as we are walking forward in faith and obedience and continue to keep getting up when we fall. I do regret those times when I've lost His vision and failed to show His love, but I can't keep looking backwards. I must reset my bearing and walk knowing He's beside me. I would not trade for the maturity that we, as a family, have gained from His corrections and guidance. We all work in the elements more than we did before, And my husband and I are learning to co-parent instead of being two ships passing in the night. There are definitely days that I want my easy life back, but I'm thankful for the fact that all four of us rely on God more and get to support each other in this test of life as we shift our priorities from maintaining our nice life to asking God to enter it. Everyone will have their own journey in life full of challenges to overcome. Our choice is how we respond to them. Do we whine and feel sorry for ourselves, or ask God to fix everything for us because we're already perfect? Or do we thank God for giving us opportunities to shape and refine us so that we are a better example for Him? You know what? You're going to mess up. You're going to get it wrong. But as long as you're focused on Christ and being thankful instead of being insulted, He'll help you. In order to be able to do this, you have to know Him and His person. The best way to do this is to read His Word every day. No matter what is going on around you, build those relationships close to you so that when the storms come, you can trust each other to hold on. And know that life is wild and crazy. Expect it. Don't act surprised or insulted by it. Remember, this is just the beginning, the testing ground for the next life. Keep your head up above the chaos and remember your prize at the end. But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of the ministry, for I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. Do thy diligence to come shortly unto me. 2 Timothy 4, 5-9.
So, Kate, when I listened to that, my mind went to the concept of a person who expects things to happen and a person who feels injurious when things happen. I think of the difference, for example, if I sign up in the military and I am full-time military, then I am without expectations, except whatever they want, they're going to do. However they want it, they're going to do it.
My opinion doesn't matter.
My opinion, I can't go to my drill sergeant and say, sir, I think you're doing this a little wrong, well, peeling enough potatoes, you'll think I'm doing right. Now, but then if I am, let's say, in the National Guard, then I show up 1 week, 2 weeks, every month, every 6 months. And then I'm just there. I put on the uniform. I go in. And I do all my little stuff and all this stuff, knowing full well that as soon as the time is over, the day is over, whatever, I'm going back home, doing my own thing, taking this uniform off, and just in my own world, my own way. I sometimes think we as, I'm going to use a word that is not really a word. The word is Christian, because it was used derogatorily by the sinners, the Jews, towards the early disciples of Christ. And Paul said, well, I'm going to use it anyway, even though they've used it for shame. I'll use it because it's got Christ in it. But we have Christians who are like Army Reserve, National Guard. They kind of show up on Sunday, but they don't expect God to mess with their lives. They have like, look, I'm only here. I'm a weekend warrior. That's all I am. Don't mess with me. Mm-hmm. And then those who are actually in the full army, signed up, enlisted, they're like, well, my whole life is going to be this until either I fulfill my term obligation, get out or die. So I think a long time, it's what we think we've signed up for. Sometimes creates a lot of frustration within us. And I'm not sure. You know me. I'm kind of all or nothing person. But what do you think people think they sign up for when they become disciples?
I don't know, because this is obviously what I'm struggling with right now. But for me, for so long, it was a respite, and it was a relief, and it was the peace was so much better, the confidence was so much better. Like, I don't know, like, that's what it was, and that's what I wanted out of it. And it's like, okay, he's like, okay, you're comfortable with me, you trust me, I'm going to be there, look backwards. And he's like, I don't know the analogy yet. Maybe the army is the best analogy. But he's like, okay, mature now. Look out. I've helped you. How are you going to pass this on? What are you going to do to help others? When you see others suffering, when you see others tired, whatever, what are you going to do? Are you going to spread the kingdom? Are you going to just say thank you and then retreat and be a hermit? And I still don't completely understand it, but that's what I'm trying to wrap my mind around.
I think sometimes, when you're out and going through school and high school and all that, and playing sports and whatever you do and all that stuff, and then when you get into the military, it's like, okay, guys, we're going to teach you how to shoot an M60 or an M16. We're going to teach you how to drive a tank. We're going to teach you how to use all kinds of military equipment. And it's kind of like, yeah, well, you never did that before. And so it's kind of like, okay, now I've got a whole new different structure of things to learn. And so I've got to dedicate myself to learning it. I think people don't realize that when you're in the world, you have no understanding of what it is to live in kingdom. You have no understanding what it is, how to follow the Spirit and how to trust God and how to have faith and pray. You don't know any of that. And so when you get into discipleship, when you really do, God says, well, you know what? I can't teach you what I need to teach you if you have all the old ways you have. They don't work.
Well, and I think it's hard because, this is an excuse, but for me, it was hard because I was always so busy. Like, I was like, yeah, but I got to get to this next thing. Yeah, but the boys need to be here, and so it was just like, I had my prior commitments, and I didn't even ask him if, like, those were the commitments he wanted me to make. And I was like, when I fulfill these commitments, I'll start listening. Or, once the boys are past this developmental stage, okay, I got you. And so there was gratefulness, because I was very grateful for, like I said, what he had done and how he had, like, shaped trust and love. But then it was like, once I got that from him, I was like, okay, that's awesome, great, thanks.
I think a lot of people believe that one of the fruits of the Spirit is the PTA. One of the fruits of the Spirit is being up there for, the crossing guard. Oh, yeah. It's like, these are good things. Not that they're not good things, but they're not the things God wants to necessarily teach us. Right. That are really deep to cause us to grow and mature. So, and I know. I mean, I can remember telling my mom when I was in the 5th grade that I think I've had enough school. I think I'm ready for the world. Just, I don't want to go back.
And then you got your PhD.
Yeah.
To prove her wrong.
So we don't give in to those childish ideas, even though sometimes we don't realize we practice them as adults. It's still like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Enough, God,
well,
enough.
I think that was a realization too, is like, I heard someone say, my kid told me no, and I was like, I made you, son. You can't tell me no. And I'm like, yeah, like God can actually say that. Like,
Yes.
but we don't think about that. We don't think we're his children, and the same way that we expect our children to listen to us, to respect us, to, you're going to make this decision, that decision. We don't do that to God. But yeah, we understand the process, or we implement it with our children, right, wrong, or indifferent. But I think if we could see the analogy on the other side, that God is our parent, we might parent better, one, and we might be a better child also.
Yeah. and realize, as much as we know, I went to school through the system once. And then when my son, your husband, Jeremiah, came along, I read the literature again. And when Chris was there, I read the literature again. So I went through the Grapes of Wrath 3 times. And it's almost like, it's like, why'd you do that? For their sake. Mm-hmm. To help them, to give clarity, because I knew how hard I had to struggle in it. And we never think that God, no, it's not hard for God, but God doesn't need to love us. Mm-hmm. He will exist without us.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't need us. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need us. He wants us desperately.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need us.
Yeah, and he wants us to choose him, just like with our kids. Mm-hmm. We existed before they did, but it kills us when they make decisions that aren't helpful to them, and it hurts us when they don't choose love or positive things. Yes. But we can't make the decision for them.
It'd be kind of like when your granddaughter stands up and she's valedictorian, which mine was, as a matter of fact. And she didn't say this, but if she got to give her valedictorian speech, she said, well, I just want to thank the janitor for all of his contributions to my life. I'm like, what the heck contributions did the janitor make? Well, he cleaned the room. I was up with you when you were puking and pooping in your pants and all this stuff, and you want to thank the janitor? And I think God's like, I gave you life. Mm-hmm. I gave you everything. Mm-hmm. And so it's important. But thank you, Katie. Keep writing. I think we keep at it and keep the shell and in a living expression in your life, because you write out of your life. That's what's so good.
And it's not because I understand it and I'm implementing it. It's because that's what he's working in me, and it helps me to say it out loud. Well, and it makes a mark for me to walk towards.
Yes. You know what? Sometimes I think we fault because we want to get to the end of the conclusion, like the end of a math problem, and just give the answer. Mm-hmm. No. It's how you worked it out is more important than.
Do you understand? Yeah, how you got there? Yeah.
Yeah, because then you know how to work it out. You can take any problem and put it in the process. Mm-hmm. Thanks, hon. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for Around the Supper Table. At Sanctuary Family Farms, we want to be real. Whether that's through our blogs, daily verses, or even Nana's recipes, we want to share the messages that God has laid on each of our hearts. If you liked what you heard today or want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Sanctuary Family Farms, or our website at www.sanctuaryfamilyfarms.com, where we share our recipes and blogs and sell farm fresh beef and pork. We can't wait for you to join us again for next week's episode.